Well, in this segment I'll show you how I make the crest rail, and also hopefully I'll be able to get in the spindles too in the same segment. So we'll go over both of those right now. So this is what the crest rail is going to look like after it's been in the form and it's dried. It's octagonal and pretty much finished cut, all except for the tenons on the end of it. Just the rough out. That's what's so great about this. You rough it out, it's ready to go. This is white oak, and that's what I typically prefer to use because I can bend it. I can put that much of a bend in it without the steam box. That's pretty heavy. Now I'm going to do that. I'm going to bend it without steam in it. It's green now. It's been split out of the log, so it's green. You couldn't do it if it was dry. And it's also just dead straight long wood fibers, which is necessary for this. Now, if you've got wood that doesn't bend quite like white oak, then you're going to have to maybe build you a little steam box and steam it, put it in. Steam boxes are simple. And then Peter Follensby suggested to me the other day that maybe people could just ladle hot water over it. I've never tried that, but you could give that a try. And the reason you wouldn't boil it is because the container that you'd have to boil the piece would be pretty big. It's easier to make a little box maybe and just put steam up into it. Now the length of this on the plans is shown at 24, and that gives you plenty of extra. This, maybe you can see that it's longer than 24. I don't know what that was, maybe 30 or longer. And the reason I made it like that was to give me leverage for bending. So that's the only reason. So if you want to make it longer to leverage so you can pull it around easier, then make it longer, and then you can cut it to length when you're ready. So that will be that. We'll split that out of white oak. The spindles can be split out of red or white or ash, or you could use a lot of different woods for the spindles. You need something that's got nice long wood fibers in it. So ash, hickory, oak, but you could probably even use some of the diffuse porous woods if that's all you had, like maple and things like that. And you may live somewhere where there's something totally different. Just give it a try. No telling what might work. That's one of the beauties about this chair, and that's one of the other democratic parts about the chair, is it opens it up to a whole lot more wood use. So like a continuous armchair that I've made tons of, you've got to have wood that can be able to bend that continuous arm. So it limits really where you are. I mean, white oak and hickory and ash are three of the only ones I know. Sometimes red oak can do it. Sometimes the only ones I know that can do that. But with this wood, with this chair, it opens it up to a whole lot more species of wood. So I would just suggest that you just give it a try. Another thing I've forgotten to say since I started the videos is that Jeff Lefkowitz drew these plans. I always mean to say that in the first one because he does such a good job for me in it. So anyway, so now with the spindles. So when we get into the spindles, one thing that you see is the large part of the bulb right there shows that it's at different places. So in other words, it would have a little arc in it when it's in the chair. Now, on this chair right here, it really isn't that big of a deal. Like, this comes from some of my other chairs where you have a carved groove right here, and I might highlight that groove with a different color paint. So when you look at the chair, it's nice that it's got a little arc in those grooves as they come around. But here, you could just ignore that or go ahead and do it. It doesn't matter. I'm going to just ignore it myself. Okay, well let's go ahead and go to some stock and split it out. I've got a nice piece of white oak right here. It's been split out, and I could get, if I needed them, I could possibly get 4 crest rails out of that. I'd certainly get 3 out of it. I wouldn't get one out here. It wouldn't make. too small, this direction, everything. But I could probably get one there and one there and one there, and I've got it laid out here on the top like that. So typically for splitting this right now, you'd use a froe and you would rive it. So the term rive is a controlled split. And a froe's really the only tool that can rive, or at least can rive well. Wedges split, but they don't rive. You can't really control it. But since I've been splitting with this axe, I'm going to continue that. And I'm actually going to see if I can get a little control with that axe and riving. I haven't tried this before, but I'll see if I can do it. I mean, I haven't tried it with an axe. I've split thousands, maybe millions of pieces with a froe. So let's start my axe right like this. So as you can see, just exactly textbook here, is that run is heading to the weak side. So the weak side is the one with the weak mass on it. And with a froe, you would turn the weak side up in the riving brake, put pressure on the strong side if you could to weaken it, and this run would come back a bit. You can control it, okay? And you can help the wood split right along its long wood fibers, which is what this is all about. Now, I don't know if there would be any way I could put enough pressure on that to split it. Yeah, there we go. So if I put pressure right there, put pressure down right like that. So let's see if I gained anything from there. Oh yeah, things split pretty straight down through there. That's about all the pressure I put on it. It kind of didn't go anywhere with me there. And now let's just see what we got. See what I can do here. Come on. Like I said, I haven't done that before. So now let's split it one more time to get our crest rail, and you can see that looks pretty nice. And you know what I just realized I could do when I was doing that is I could put that axe in. Watch this. I could put that axe in right like that, and I could rive this thing. Oh wow! Look at that. Look what happens when you're trying to be innovative. There you go. Worked. So I've got, so I'm going to do a crest rail out of this right here. And so let me get my draw knife and I'll be back. Got my shaving horse ready, got my draw knife ready, and my piece of white oak that I split out. So I'm going to start in the radial plane with the draw knife. Now, the radial plane would be the one that goes from the bark to the pith in the line. So it would be, you would be looking at the edge of the growth rings if you're in the radial plane. You'd also see the medullary rays if you're in the radial plane. The only reason for that is it's easier to cut. Okay, then by the time we get around to the tangential plane, it's going to be smaller, and so we'll be able to cut it a little bit better. So the idea here is to follow those long wood fibers and not cut across them. I want them perfectly in line the whole way. If the piece got a curve in it, you're going to follow it. Okay? So you can lay down your draw knife, and you really need a good sharp draw knife here because it can find those layers and just stay right in. So you can hear a little splitting out down here, and draw knife's picking that up, and it's telling me that more has to come off here than back up here. So I'm pretty nice and level right here in the plane that I want to be in. But if I barely engage the knife, let it pull up just some small wood fibers, just lightly, and that's where a sharp knife comes in. And then just as soon as it hits some wood fibers that are stacked up that need to come off, it'll dig in. And right there it was. Okay. Now I'm in the same plane from there to there. Now I could have gone downhill, and I wouldn't be able to tell it going this way. But when I flip it around, I can put my knife in and just engage it and see if it digs in, and it doesn't. So if I had gone downhill going that way, I would know it. It would tell me. Okay, so now, this was actually a tad bit below that. So now I need to make a choice. Do I take off a little bit more? Yeah, let's just go ahead and go back here. I'm going to have to take it down another level. There we go. And now switch it around. Pull up a little bit, and then right there it just digs right in. And now I'm at one level the whole way. Now I'll turn it to a tangential plane. Now here you can look at the growth rings. You can flip it over and sight down those growth rings and see if you're in the same plane. You can also see color changes over here. Okay, so there I am. So now I have two planes, and I'm going to mark it out to 13/16. I want a 3/4 finished dimension, but this is green, so I'm going to give it about a 1/16 extra. Now, I typically will use a marking gauge for this, and but since I've tried to eliminate every tool possible, eliminated the marking gauge. So one thing you could do is take your rule, and you could just mark 13/16, and you could even use your rule and go right like that. I think it's probably just easier to put up your finger right like that. And that's going to give it to you close enough. Let's see. Now that means that I've got to do it right-handed. Well, let's see if I can do it right-handed. Well, might work. Mark it here on this side. 13. Now another thing you could do is just take a block of wood and saw out 13/16, and you could just put it up there and just use it as a marking gauge, right like that. So that's another thing that you can do. It's not quite as easy as doing it with your finger, but might be a little more accurate than what I'm getting. But it's going to work fine. So I'll go to the radio plane once again. So I'm usually cutting to a scribe line. So you can hear that splitting right there, and that's because I lowered it on this side. Now the draw knife is popping off some of that excess material, and just as it gets down to the same level, it will stop. So there we are. And now where'd I mark it? Over here on this side. So there's not much to come off of this side at all. And it looks like to me, I got it a little bit fat right there. Okay, that's looking good. And now, take it to an octagonal. at it and make sure that you've got 8 equal sides, you know, to where you can't even tell where the original square was. Now we're ready to bend it. So let me get my bending form. And of course, this would be the point at which you'd want to put it in a steam box if you need to steam bend it. But we'll see if we can bend this one. Well, I got the form on the bench here. Get ready to clamp it down. The form's just, I've just made this one out of plywood, but make it out of whatever. Then we just have some pegs for over here and some wedges to drive down in between it. Now to hold the form down, I realized that, or my cameraman realized that I've introduced 2 more tools. He thinks I'm up to about 14 or 15 now, so no longer a 10 tool chair. And then I've got a little cheater bar here. These are hold fast right here. If you aren't familiar with them, you should be. They're great. They're inexpensive and they hold stuff. So where's my club? Here it is. So that's the way they hold it. And that's the way you loosen them. Okay, there's the piece I'm gonna bend. So I line up the center and I pull it around. There's the peg. Okay. My bandsaw table in the way. I can come under it, yeah. Okay, let's see if it'll bend. Cold. Yeah, I definitely need that cheater bar. There's no way I could bend that without it. Now let's get that wedge ready. Successful. No breaks. White oak. That's white oak. Alright, let's go make some spindles. I got some red oak right here for the spindles, and we'll just see how it'll split up. Let's see here. And see if we can split this into thirds. So splitting in half's easy. I don't think there's any way I can split that into thirds. Not the red oak and not with an axe. I might be able to do it with a froe, but I'll just split it like that. Okay, there's this good spindle stock. Well, both of them are fine. So get my shaving horse out and we'll make a spindle. So just like I did with the Crest, I'll start in the radial plane. I'll get one surface that is straight with those long wood fibers. No matter if the piece is curved or what, that's what you're going to follow. And then I'll go on to the tangential, then I'll mark it for its width and cut it into square. And then I'll start tapering it. So that's what will be added on to what I did to the Crest drill. So first off, let's get a surface. Okay, so I got two in the long wood fiber plane and semi-square to each other. Square enough for chairs. 13/16 again. And line. Let's see, why don't I do it like this and keep it in my left hand? Right hand can't do that very well. I can do a lot of things right-handed, but writing's not one of them. Okay, now cut it down to that line. Said, if you did your work right on this side, just as you hit that line, it ought to quit the splitting. It will still have a smooth cut. Okay, that looks a little big right there. So now we have our square, and figure out which end you want to go from. Choose the best end, and if you've got any crook, I'd put it up here at the top. And I believe the plans show 6 5/16 to the to that point that will be the bulge. If it was round, it would be a bulb. And that would be on the center one. If you wanted to do it in increments like it shows on the plans, I'd go ahead and cut them, mark them all at 6 5/16, and then I would adjust them by cutting off the bottom because you've got extra length at the top. Let me just show you the course here. That ain't gonna work. Let's just take it back to where it was. So this is the tenon that's going to go into the seat. This is going to end up being a half. I'm going to go for 5/8 right now to allow for shrinkage. And I like a kind of a concave taper coming off, so it'll kind of go right like that. And you start right on the line there. And you can measure down here to make sure you're, got 5/8 or close to that if you want. Now we're going for, what are we going for up here? 3/8. That's what the top tenon is. And so you'll want to leave it about 7/16 or so, something like that. Pretty good. Okay, so I got a square version of it, and now take it to the octagonal. start right on that line. Now, so it's all about edges. And we want this point defined by a little corner right there. Okay, so there we go. Got spindles made. Now, since these are so green, you might want to like set them out in the shop for a while and let them lose a lot of their moisture. And then after that, you can put them in a little kiln. If you've got a wood stove, you can put them next to the wood stove. You want to dry them super dried, which means all measurable moisture content taken out of it, which I don't know what percentage that is, 5 or 6% or something like that. Or you can. I've got a little light bulb kiln, and I've got one behind me that I use that's made out of plywood and is real nice. But I'm going to show you one in just a minute that's just made out of some scrap. So I'll show that to you, and it works just as well as that nice one behind me. So I super dry a lot of the parts. All the tenons get super dried. So the spindle, of course, is tenoned on both ends, so I just go ahead and dry this whole thing. The legs get super dried just on the tenons, and the stretchers then will get super dried on both tenons. And then the crest rail, you can dry it to make the bend set, but also to dry those tenons on the ends. And like I said, you could use any type of heat source or whatever, but this is a pretty simple way to do it. When I got ready to make a simple one for this video, I just looked in the basement what scrap I had lying around, and somebody had sent a box that was lined with this styrofoam, and I thought, well, that'll work perfect. So I mean, if you got some plywood, that's perfect. I mean, you could even make it out of a cardboard box. In fact, the cardboard box is already the box. You don't even have to tape it together. That would work out good. And you put a little heat source in there. So I've just duct taped the thing together. Duct tape hinge over here and a duct tape latch over there. But you need some heat. And so one light will do it. Now, the easiest way to get a light in there, get heat in there, is one of these. And so what you do is just cut out a hole in the middle of the bottom that's just slightly smaller than this rim, where this will drop down in it and will grab right like that and hold. And then it's really safe. All this stuff is outside of there, as long as you don't, drop any flammable stuff down on top of this light bulb. And then plug the thing in. Now I had to get it up so that would work, and so I just found these little blocks. I was looking for some boards, but I just don't have boards in my shop, being a green woodworker. So anyway, and I would have this light bulb in there and plugged in and on for you, but when I cut that hole out, evidently I had a different one of these, the bigger size, and I don't know where that is. But you get the idea. That's there's a lot of different ways you could throw together a very inexpensive kiln. You don't have to go to the expenses of going and buying 3/4 inch plywood and the porcelain receptacles and all that stuff. So you can just do it right like this. In fact, I used one just like this probably for the first 10 years of chair making, and it worked fine. So anyway, I wanted to show you that, and now I think since we got all the parts made and shown, next thing, or all the oak parts, next will be the seat. So that's what we'll do next time.